Hey, everybody. It is Malu, and I'm in a remote location for this week's podcast. I'm super excited. Welcome to Oh Heck Nah, a Naked and Afraid podcast. We are covering Apocalypse, which has been interesting and is about to get even more interesting, but not more interesting than my co-host, Gabe. How are you doing today, Gabe?
I'm doing good. How are you, Malu? Looking fabulous in orange.
Thank you. This is my school colors, orange and blue. Go UTEP, go Miners. I am doing great. You look great. This is going to be an interesting show because there's a lot of controversy, but that's what makes it good. So we're going to dive right into it. It's Apocalypse. What episode is this?
This is episode 4.
Episode 4, we are down 4 people. It is day 11. And on day 11, the only group that has had a significant amount of food would be Stephen Lee Hall, right? That his group.
Yeah, because of Frank's expert archery skills, he managed to nab some food for himself and his team, and so they're pretty well fed at the moment.
Well, can you imagine not eating for 11 days?
I think the longest I've ever gone is 1, and after that I was just like, oh, I'm so hungry. First world problems and all that fun stuff.
Exactly. First world problems. Sitting on our nice couches, it's so easy to judge hungry people. I know we want to get straight to the controversy, but what approach do you want to take, Gabe?
Well, we could start off a little bit with some controversy with some of the fans with Stephen Lee Hall Jr. a little bit, because a lot of individuals are kind of questioning his mentorship a little bit. Because when there's a break in the storm that happens, he's like, I'm going to go look for food. And Alexa and Frank, we should work on the shelter. And Stephen Lee Hall Jr. is like, oh, that's not a big deal. It'll be fine. We'll just endure the rainstorm. It's not that bad. Cut to torrential downpour. It's just like, you just got to mentally not think of tapping. It's fine. It's totally fine. We could have worked on the shelter, but it's fine. And some people were kind of like, what is Stephen doing here? What is he doing?
I can definitely see him going that direction. Didn't he actually say the word, it's just a few sprinkles?
I believe so. And in the same sentence was saying it's not that big of a deal. And then it turned into a big of a deal. And then, this is the second time he's in a mentoring position and he didn't really focus on shelter. I think that Stephen was in Alaska while it was snowing and he's like, this is fine. So he's not really worried about the rain. But Alexa and Frank are kind of like, we're a little chilly right now. We kind of want to focus on our shelter. And Stephen's like, let's not worry about it. I feel like he should have worried a little bit more for his teammates a little bit, because Alexa was kind of like, oh, this is tapping weather. It's really cold. At the end of the episode, she was crying a little bit because of just the situation and stuff. And it's like, I think Stephen should have prioritized the shelter and their comfort a little bit more, as opposed to, I'm just going to go hunt for a little bit. Oh, I missed. Oh, well, it's fine. Oh, a little bit of rain. We'll deal with that kind of thing. It was just like,
well, I don't necessarily agree with your assessment 100%. What about the edit? Because I remember Frank saying he wanted a canopy, and I remember his speech about the food, and it was an emergency thing, and he wanted to go continue to hunt. It was clear his attitude and his number one priority was not the shelter. But I don't know if he seemed lackadaisical about it. Let's talk about his past challenges. When he was with Jeff, didn't Stephen want to build up the shelter and Jeff didn't, or was it vice versa? We might need to do some research on this.
I don't exactly know who wanted to build a shelter and who didn't. I just know that apparently the Bayou Boys, as they called themselves, were more kind of cowboy camping in Louisiana, so the shelter wasn't super great then. So, I
think Stephen wanted it. I don't remember. All right, so let's move on. And then Stephen sleeps in the tree. Remember when it rained really, really hard? He didn't have his shelter ready then either. And he had to sleep in the tree.
Yeah, when he was by himself and he's scared of spiders, so he was worried about tarantulas, and he's just like, I'm just going to sit in this tree and it's fine. Like, I'm sure he can endure many a different weather phenomena, but it's just like, I feel like if you worked on the shelter, that's one less thing to worry about. And as I said before, in his mentoring challenge, Allison was like, Stephen, we need a shelter. And he's like, I'm going to go hunting. And so
yes, and that wasn't the only time either. So now we have 2 examples of not having great shelters, whether it's his fault or not his fault. And then remember, there was another time when he was on Last One Standing. If you remember, him and his partner were the only ones who really didn't have a really good shelter. Remember, they had like drawings on the wall. And I remember thinking, if they have time to draw on the rocks, they have time to build a shelter. I don't know who was behind not building one, but that's another time they didn't have adequate shelter. So he has a history of not having adequate shelter. I think we can both agree on that, correct?
Correct. We're not, and I am. He is a legend. We're just pointing out, and other fans have been noticing this as well. It's just kind of a repeat pattern thing. We're not. Don't send hate to any of the survivalists, everybody. I feel I need to mention that in case someone's like, "You're being mean." It's like, don't send hate. We're just pointing some patterns out, and this has happened a few times before, and it's just like, I'm sure, like, even if he did help with the canopy, it may not have been completely finished, but at least they would have had something.
Yes. So what is our judgment? We're gonna judge you, Stephen. I'm sorry. We love you. We're not gonna send hate. We're just gonna do a final judgment because that's what we do here. It's a podcast. We're talking about the show. Do we say he didn't pay enough attention? His ego's too big? So we're gonna start off with the worst. Stephen doesn't care about his partners. I don't think that's the case. What about you?
I remember on one of his Instagram lives when he was talking about XL8 after Lisa and Tim Tap from the challenge, he's like, I loved being alone. So he didn't seem too beat up about it. I'm not saying he was like masterminded away for them to leave, but I think he just didn't really mind them leaving and stuff like that. And he's just like, oh, they left. Oh, well, I'm just going to do this on my own. It's fine. Maybe just a little bit nonchalant and lackadaisical about it.
So our final judgment on Stephen, Gabe, what do you think? I don't think he has too big of an ego. I don't think he doesn't care about his teammates. I think he just has a tougher skin and he's not thinking the way that they think.
Right. I think because he's done so many of these challenges, he's like, okay, I know what I need to do. I know my limits. And unfortunately, it takes him a little bit to look over and be like, there are other people who haven't done this, who are not used to this, that are feeling the cold. And I need to try to help coach them through it since we don't really have the shelter to keep us as warm as we could be. So I think, yeah, He was just kind of in his own world. And then he was like, dude.
Right. Well, then, okay, let's get to the point where he's shoveling out the water. Did that make sense? I mean, all of this brings down before. I remember at one point, Stephen says, I think we're in a better position than most. Do you remember him saying that, Gabe?
I do remember that, but was that after the food or just like in the middle of after they get the food and before like it starts raining? I can't remember exactly like time-wise.
The way the edit shows it as if he's talking about his shelter after they built up, a couple layers of things. So he thinks his shelter is in a good place. And I forgot where I was going with this.
No.
When I think about Stephen, I kind of lose my train of thought, especially when I think about him in that, was it the In-N-Out burger outfit? Did you ever see that outfit?
Was it just the hat in his bag?
Yeah. I can remember that. Okay, so anyway, I totally lost where I was. So I'm just going to hand it over to you because now all I can think is about how much I want an In-N-Out burger.
Okay, well, going back to the scooping of the water thing, I think that Stephen is thinking short term with some of these problems. Like, oh, we need food. I'll go hunting. Oh, it's about to storm. Oh, they'll take care of that. Oh, it's raining. The shelter is flooding. I'll just scoop out the water. But the problem is when he's scooping out the water, he's also scooping out the dirt in his shelter. And when he's doing that, he's essentially making it more of a bowl. So all the water is going to keep flowing in there. So even, as much as he's, getting all this water out and Alexa's like, oh, thank you so much for getting all this water out of the shelter. I really appreciate it. And Frank's like, cool, I'm going to stay warm in here too. But I feel like if he would have maybe dug a trench around his shelter or done something similar to what Teal and Waz did and kind of dig a ditch where they can lead the water away kind of thing, finding the elevation, digging, make the water be like, oh, I'll go this way. But just scooping the water, great in the short term, not really in the long term because, it's just going to keep collecting in there more and more. So that was one of the kind of issues I had with his shelter and doing all that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't think that they were prepared. Stephen, you weren't prepared. Alexa looks miserable. I'm almost scared she's going to tap because of the weather. We'll get into that a little bit later. Frank, I think a lot of the editing has a lot to do with it as well. I don't understand why they're sitting in those cars and they're leaking. It was just not planned out very well. That's all there is to it. They weren't prepared for cold or rain.
Yeah, they were building their shelter out, and so it's like the elephants and lions will stay out, but the rain and the elements are getting in. And I think there was one point where Frank tried to use a stick or something to close up the holes on top of their car, but it didn't really help as much. But that's all we see them trying to fix those parts. And so maybe if there's a break in the rain, maybe finding some metal pieces to put on top of it. But I wasn't there because, I'm clear-headed, I'm well-fed, they're out there, they're starving, they might have done these things, but it was edited out. So I'm just going off of what I see, and, I'm a couch survivalist, so I'm just like, maybe they could have done this, and someone may come in and be like, you dumb, they did do that, but it wasn't shown because reasons, and I'm just like, just
Yeah, I
commenting on what I
truly
see.
believe that. I believe, not that you're dumb, I truly believe that the edit takes out a lot of what they're not showing. So let's move on to the real controversy. I think we spent way too much time on that. The real controversy, I'm just going to say it. People are saying the food was planted. They're saying that the catfish was planted, that both deer were planted. Let's get to undigging this.
Excuse me, sorry. Sorry, I need the anticipation. I just, I ate too much Mopani. The tannin. But yeah, that editing was very odd. I mainly see a lot of individuals talking about the two bigger animals, not really much about the fish, but there's some individuals who are saying 3 big wins in a short amount of time. The editing was weird. It was all a mystery of what happened to the animals.
So what was suspicious about Woz's animal?
Some of the suspicious thing was, it looked like it fell asleep just in the middle of the area that Teal was looking at. I thought it was odd that Teal was kind of just with a GoPro by herself. And I'm like, maybe with the rain coming in, the camera people had to work on getting some rain-proof plastic over the cameras, and I'm sure Teal wasn't in any danger, but it was just kind of Teal with her iPad just being like, what's over there? It looks like it's asleep. And then it's just like, okay. And they kind of give an explanation of maybe due to the season, there may have been a bloom of Mopani and the animals eat a bunch of it. They get a lot of the tannin, and unfortunately, I think the first thing that I noticed that I don't think a lot of fans noticed is that Teal was basically with a GoPro and she was just by herself and she's just like, what's that over there? And then she has to run back. And then when she gets back to camp, that's when you see the camera that a camera person is holding. So I just thought that was really weird off the bat.
That is a very good point. And this is the reason why I personally am going to say that this was not planted. Everybody who keeps saying it's planted, your very good observation is the reason why it's not. Because number one, usually there's one big camera and then the GoPro. And the camera is focusing on one person. Well, if they planted an animal, wouldn't they send the big camera with her? Hello, common sense, people. I'm going to say that's proof number one that it was not planted, was that she was out there by herself, which I don't know is safe. Good point, Gabe, with the GoPro. And if they planned it, they would have made sure that either both of them were out there, but they would have made sure that the big camera was with them. So that it was not planted. What was the second thing that seemed suspicious?
The second thing that seems suspicious is that they didn't know exactly how the animal passed away. And there was kind of a theme in the episode of Mopani and tannin. So it was sort of implied that that was kind of the main reason that happened. I believe Teal posted something about it, but I can't exactly remember everything. But I think there might have been a Mopani bloom. There were the animals were really hungry, didn't realize the increase in tannin, and unfortunately had some gastrointestinal issues as they were
So
doing
there's a lot of people saying that, well, how did it die? Well, let me ask you a question. There was no holes or anything. There were no teeth marks, blah, 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 blah. If the editors were going to plant an animal, I think they would maybe make it look like it was attacked or something like that. They're just not going to put a dead animal out there. And how would you kill an animal humanely. Because let me tell you, they would never do it inhumanely. Like, how would you kill an animal with no marks? I don't know. It's not like you can go down to the store and buy an unprocessed deer. So I think that we don't know how it was killed, and I think the fact that there was no bite marks on it makes it even more likely that it was not planted. Correct? Or what do you think?
I would agree with that. And also, there was another comment on one of the posts on the True Fans page where someone was saying how they have a friend who's a farmer in South Africa, and apparently that can be seen quite often as just animals just getting dehydrated and passing away. So it could be dehydration. I know it's like, oh, but it rained that day, but maybe it might have been too late for I believe it was a kudu, but yeah, the animal that was found. So there's a few theories, but I don't think it was planted either. And it was just the editing was really weird because Waz said that it had been 13 days since they've eaten, but this was supposedly found on day 12. It's like, maybe all of the finds weren't found like around like a day of each other kind of thing.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second. So what's your ruling? More likely planted or more likely not planted?
More likely not planted, gavel bang, is my final decision for me.
All right. You hear Judge Gabe. I think I made some really good points. I think this is really fun. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to move on to Wes and Steve. This one, we really need to break down. I'm going to insert the noise that the animal is making here. Pause for the noise. That noise was crazy weird. I find it suspicious just from that point, that how crazy that sound was. What do you think was suspicious about the very beginning of that hunt for that dead animal?
The noise was weird to me because it sounded familiar. My first thought is Stephen Kelly and Wes, they hear a noise, and I think that words. Okay. I'm sure they did hear something, but maybe the microphones didn't pick it up. So maybe they could have inserted that noise because it does sound very familiar, that noise. I don't know if that's the actual noise. I believe the animal was a Nyala. I don't know if that's an actual noise they make or what, but I think they probably did hear something, but the audio didn't pick it up. So they had like a filler noise to fill it in. And so they were hearing this noise and going exploring, but it
I
was
agree.
Weird to me.
I agree. I think that the noise that we heard was not necessarily natural. It was edited in some way to make it louder. Whatever the case may be, I believe I don't think that was a natural noise. What was the second suspicious thing about the dead animal?
I think it was kind of suspicious about the fact that it was kind of dying at that point, where it was just kind of just out there, just lying there, making the noise. And my first thought is, this is so sad. I don't want to see this. I would have been fine with a jump cut to them being like, we have a Nyala, we heard the noises. But I'm sure people would say that's more edited. And so they're like, see, Wes took his bow and arrow and all that. And they also didn't know exactly what happened to it. And the tannin stuff was brought up again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else was suspicious about this. They found an animal that was passing, and everyone wants to say that it's planted. They heard the noise, and I truly believe they heard the noise. I don't think you could go back and plant that. Like, they heard something. I think it's very clear they heard something, and they went and found it. I don't understand why it's so suspicious. I think the editing of the noise is the only thing that was suspicious. So, it debunked? Not planted? What do you think?
I just thought of this. Around both of the big animals, there was no human footprints. I don't remember seeing any like boot prints or footprints. And if it was planted there, wouldn't there have been some, footprints of people who put it there? But I don't remember seeing like the area around the animals like messed up. I know it was raining when Steven and Wes were looking for theirs, but with Teal, I don't remember seeing any footprints. So I think that could go again, that could be towards the not planted argument.
Well, now I'm going to have to go look for footprints. Thanks for the homework, Gabe.
Sorry.
I will look. I'll try to see. I'll put some information here. But I think everybody who's saying that this was planted should definitely go look. That's what they need to do, because I don't think this is planned. This is real out there, people. I'm going to say, get over it. The only criticism I'm going to give, and then I'm going to let Gabe give his criticism. Editors, this is a long show. Why do you have to put all three getting food in one episode? I don't think it happened all at the same time. And even if it did happen at the same time, I know that you have the ability to make it where it does not look like it happened at the same time. People are looking at this show with a critical eye because they don't believe that there are people crazy enough to get naked and almost starve in Africa, the Amazon. And so we have to take a little care, because there are people out there that crazy. I'm one of them. So that's my only criticism. I think they could have done it different.
I think so too, because another thing is that I believe some survivalists have talked about in the past where, the 20-day protein score. A lot of survivalists had said, no, that happened either early on or in the middle. But I guess storyline wise, it's much more of a yay, big win. If it's near the end, they're like, yay, we get protein. We have a push towards the end. And unfortunately, it's kind of becoming a little bit of a naked and afraid cliche at this point, where it's like, oh, the 20-day protein score, it must be planted. And it's like, no, that may have happened sooner than you thought it did. It didn't happen, like, it wasn't planted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if people find inconsistencies, then they're like, yes, I am right, it was planted. But it's like, no, the edit is real. Don't hate the
edit.
survivalists.
It all has to do with the edit. Maybe the editors will listen to us eventually. You got to change it up a little bit, because you are getting these stereotypes of, oh, they always find food on day 20. But I think it's just people wanting to prove that this show is fake. And they just want to prove it's fake because it gives them something to do. Besides that, what else happened on the show? I mean, Joe got his. Let's talk about storylines, Gabe. I wasn't a big fan of the whole being reborn kind of deal, then it leading into the food. It was very dramatic, and I know the editors and the show love that. But something about it kind of, I don't know, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And had that been on another day, not with the other two, maybe it would have felt a little bit different. I don't know. What did you think about that whole catfish find?
I thought it was interesting. And I also wanted to say that when Joe found the fish, it was sunny out. So we know it definitely might not have been during the Stormageddon that was happening where the other two found their finds. But I think maybe within 5 to 6 days of the other two animals being found, Joe managed to get the catfish. And a lot of people, I think 1 or 2 people online were like, so was Joe ever going to thank Amber for putting out that fish trap for him to get the catfish and stuff? And I'm like, well, he made her a cod at one point, so take that. I didn't say that, but I'm going to say it now. But yeah.
Or maybe he said it and they just cut it.
Exactly. The edit. He could have been saying thank you, Amber, so much for this nice meal. And I noticed, because last episode I talked about, Teal finding Mopani, but we're not seeing the other teams. But in this episode, we see Wes and Stephen Kelly getting some, and we see some leaves in Joe's pod, and my first thought is that must be Mopani, but I don't know how to identify African plants, so that could have just been something else. And I'm like, he found Mopani too. That's great. So he gets some nice vegetables and he gets some catfish, and outside it's thundering right now, so I'm having my own Stormageddon here. I just think it was good timing, but I think of the 3 animal finds, Joe's was the least. Oh, it was planted there, because as we saw in a lot of the other watering holes, there are fish. So it's not outrageous to think that a fish got into that trap.
No, but when you add it on to 2 other animals, it's just a lot for us to take. There's only so much romance a woman can take. There's only so much swooning we can do. And that was a lot to swoon over. It was a lot. It was too much to digest. So much so, I really don't even remember much else about the show to even talk about.
I mean, I know, well, I guess this was more kind of like a character development, talking heads thing, the episode of Last One Standing 3 after Max Tap, and we see the final 4 and their thought process. We got a little bit of that with some of them. And I really liked how in some of Joe's vignettes, we see him like with the ingenuity of his shelter, and he's like, I can't, or like this challenge, you're offering man-made materials, and it's the way you use them, which
Yeah.
can help you out. And it's like, even though they have man-made stuff, they still need to get their own food, but they can like have really good shelters to be the most comfortable they can. And we see him making his own little reflecting wall. We see him kind of shoring up his shelter so he could be the most comfortable. So I
Mhm.
like seeing that and seeing his thought process, because early on in the season, it's like ingenuity, and it's nice to see that in action.
Think I think you're 100% right. The Joe storyline is strong. He's by himself, and they're not even having to find things, I don't think, to showcase him. He's making the showcase himself. That firewall and all the ingenuity, like you said, was really great. I do want to talk about when it comes to Joe and your Mampani leaves. I think you're 100% right, because he said, I have a full meal here, or a complete meal. So I think he meant meat and vegetables. So I think
Exactly.
you're right. They're just not talking about it during editors. So what about anything else that caught your eye on this show, on this
Oh, is this
episode?
is this a reference to Teal?
No, it's not. I was thinking about Zaddy. I was thinking about
Oh.
Zaddy bending over and eating those dung beetles. That caught my eye. Gross, but good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's willing to to eat what he needs to make sure he gets the necessary protein. And I noticed that Stephen Kelly is kind of a picky eater, which kind of leads to like the dad Wes and the son, or yeah, the dad Wes and the son Stephen Kelly, because Wes is like, we gotta eat these dung beetles. We have to eat this Mopani, and Wes is giving information about the Mopani, and Steven's like, I don't really like the dung beetles. I don't really like the Mopani. It tastes gross. I want a full meal, not a bug meal. That's not how Liverpool accent goes, but I'm trying my best here.
You're
But with
doing
Steven,
great.
thank you. Steven would probably disagree, but it's watching, and I'm just like, Steven, you need to do what you can to survive out there, because I
Listen to Zaddy.
listen to Wes the Zatter. But I also learned recently that I think that Wes and Steven are unable to eat the crocodile that may be living in their water source, because crocodiles are a protected species. And I saw
Oh.
online where I think Wes said that, yeah, that the crocodile wasn't on the menu, unfortunately. And I think maybe at some point they were told that, but the edit kind of cut that out. But this isn't the first time where there's an animal that can't be eaten, but the audience doesn't know it can't be eaten.
And I think super fans are really the only ones that care about that kind of stuff or notice it. I don't know if it's a disservice to regular fans or not, because they probably would. I mean, super fans know. They would have gone after that croc most likely had they been able to. I saw a post about somebody. Oh, I'm going to cut that out. So what's next? What else caught your eye?
Teal's eye is healed, and oh, Teal and Wise were also very smart with their shelter. With the gutters. Is that where you think I'm going with this?
I
Because
think, no, I was thinking about the gutters and her climbing on top of him.
oh yeah, and she's like, whoever thought I'd be in South Africa pulling down gutters on top of a giant? But that goes back to my point with Stephen Lee Hall Jr. Waz and Teal are thinking about their shelter, and, they're making the gutters so all the water doesn't go in their shelter. But then dealing with the smoker, Steven's team didn't really have to worry about dealing or any of their meat going bad, because they had like a way to smoke it. But with Waz and Teal, they might not have been able to really use their shelter for that, for the smoking. So they had to take it outside. So it's like one team is like really good shelter, but not the best food preservation because of the storm. And it's just like having to adapt kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that you brought that up, because I kind of forgot. I did not like Waz's and Teal's plan for their kudu. And I remember they're saying something about, we're going to smoke the whole leg, and as long as the outer meat gets smoked, the inner meat will be fine. I love Waz and I love Teal, but it didn't seem like the most efficient way to do it. And then they knew it was raining. And they said, and is this going to be next episode, Gabe? We lost the coal or the fire went out. Are they going to lose all this meat? Did they talk about that in this episode?
They do talk about it near the end where the fire went out and they did have to go through a lot of the meat. And, it's kind of like the ending of the episode, kind of like what's going to happen, where he like pours out a bunch of it and he's like, we got to adapt to the situation out here because, it's raining and we lost some of the meat, but, we just gotta keep going and all that fun stuff.
They lost a lot of meat. Can you answer a question for me?
Maybe.
Why don't they just call it jerky? They call it, what do they call it?
Oh, biltong.
Why do they call it that?
I think because that's what they call it in Africa, and they're like, biltong. And so...
How do you spell it? Let's look it up. So, hey Google, what's the difference between biltong and beef jerky? I'm asking. I honestly don't know.
I guess maybe since it's a local cuisine thing. That's just my guess, but maybe there is a difference, like in the method that they used to make it. But I'm not. It says
it relies on air circulation. The biltong does, and the beef jerky is often in a smoker in a quicker process. Okay. So it says that beef jerky is thinner strips and dried with heat, and biltong is air dried using minimum heat. I don't know. I don't like the word biltong. I like jerky.
Well, when you're on your, I mean, it's an interesting terminology, but I guess when you're in your challenge in Africa and you end up with some jerky, you're gonna turn the camera. This is jerky.
Not biltong. I'm not gonna call I don't know what biltong. They're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's totally going to happen. Well, no, besides the, Zaddy and the Beatles, there was really nothing else that I thought was that interesting of the show. When I watched it, I was like, oh, we're going to have to deal with all the haters saying that this was fake. That's how I felt. And I was like, oh, how are we going to deal with this? What about you? When you got done watching, what did you think?
I was just like, oh no. Well, I mean, I was also on my phone on the True Fans page, okaying posts and stuff, and people instantly were talking about, the planted meat and stuff like that. And I'm just like, and since so many people were saying it, I had to be like, decline. This has already been mentioned before, because once like all those posts come in and once they're posted, people are just going to go straight to the negative. They're going to say it's so fake and try to list examples, and all you survivalists who have starved and lost so much weight and had to deal with the elements are just like...
Yeah. Let's talk about the last thing that I thought was very memorable. Alexa, girl, you were feeling your pain. You were all up in your feelings. I hope she does not go home. When she said, but I'm only human, fighting back the tears and the ugly crying. I mean, it's just, I said fighting back the ugly crying. I felt for her. Do you think she's going to tap?
I don't know. I think it's a misdirect, but it was very foreshadowing. And I'm so worried because I'm like, I really like this cast. Alexa, Frank, and Stephen Leal Jr. are the only group that have been able to stay together this whole time, but we're only on day 14. We have 21 more days.
Oh my gosh, we're only on day 14. Gosh, that's how long I was out there. 14. She was breaking at day 14. I think she'll make it. Yeah. I don't think that Steven or Frank would let her go home. They're going to fight. They are going to fight for her to stay because you can see her breaking. They're noticing it. They're going to step it up, and the rain is going to dissipate. There's no way the rain can last.
Right. And there's still a moment in the trailer where we see Steven getting emotional, and maybe he's having a little bit of a heart-to-heart with Alexa, like, I've never been in the position to tap, and I'm Stephen Lee Hall Jr. I'm a big deal, but we have to stay together. We have to see this through together. And he says, and that's the reason why I can't finish, but that may have been cut out, but maybe that's a heart-to-heart. I could be completely wrong, and he's just like, you know what? One time, my hair was in my face during a shot, and I thought, I'm gonna tap out because I didn't look. My hair wasn't completely coiffed in this scene, but I don't know exactly what's going on. But hopefully, Steven can have a talk because he was coaching her while in the rain after she said it's sample weather, and he's like, don't even have that thought in your mind. Don't even think of that as an option, or else you're gonna eventually go down that rabbit hole and leaves. I think he was good at coaching her a little bit, so hopefully we'll see more of that.
That's funny that you say that because I thought that he was not very good at coaching her in that moment. But I think they showed a lot of least effort in that moment. It almost seemed like he didn't care, which I know is not true. It's editing. That was what I saw. This is naked and afraid. You gotta, you can't even let that thought get in your mind. I'm sure that when they were stuck in those cars for hours, I'm sure he said a lot more. And I didn't like that edit because I thought it made him look. See, you're seeing it from his heart. That's what I think. I think you're seeing it from his heart. But I think a regular fan, not a super fan, who's watching this, who doesn't really know him that well, would say, he's just a little cold. That's what I think a normal person would say. And I didn't like them showing him that way.
Yeah, I do kind of agree. There were moments like when, it's not that big of a deal to build the shelter. And maybe he's just like throwing out lines like, don't think about tapping. But, I think there were a few moments because like when he was scooping the water, Alexa's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Steven. Are you sure you don't need some help? And he's like, no, I got it. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Even though, again, he's making a bowl, he should have dug a trench. But, he does try a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's just like, whoopsies, I ended up on my own. Fun time. It just thundered. But I just remember when he was answering a Q&A, when he mentioned being alone in XL8, he was just like, I was so happy with it. So I'm just like, oh gosh, Steven, you need to tone that down a little bit around Frank and Alexa. Don't make him think you want him to leave right away. And maybe he thought of that and was just like, don't tap, don't do it.
Yeah, so I can't wait for next week. Because I know Alexa's gonna stay strong. I want to remind everybody, I try my best not to find anything out from the survivors. I have not talked to Alexa in I don't know how long because I don't want to know. I don't want to know what happens. I'm freaking out. Don't go home. We need you out there. What's coming up for next week, Gabe?
So next week, we have an episode called Triple Threat, which is interesting because I believe Frank's 21-day episode was called Triple Threat. I think. I could be wrong. It had something to do with triple, but the summary is...
I lost you in the middle of that.
Oh, shit.
I totally zoned out. You know why?
Because
I was talking to a friend about the animals, and they said, duh, maybe one of them got bit by a snake. And so when you were reading the next week's episode, my mind went to the Black Mamba. One of them could have been bitten by a snake. And that I just wish that they would have brought that up more. You don't want people to think this is fake. So bring up more scenarios. Why do we have to think about that on our own?
Yeah, because once people without a lot of information, once people get an idea, it's just might grow in the wrong direction and they might come up to the incorrect conclusion, like far over here. But I feel like someone online mentioned it might have been a snake bite or someone in the episode, but I unfortunately can't remember.
Me neither. I can't remember either. But anyway, I'm sorry, I went on a tangent again. I'm ready for next week. I hope that this is a misdirect. I need something fun in my life, Gabe. Do you have anything fun? Because this episode just stressed me out because I feel like I have to defend the reputation of the show.
Well, we can do another one of the ranking games that I've cleverly come up with.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
Okay, so for anyone listening who doesn't know, I have come up with a ranking game where I give Malou a list of 4 survivalists, and she has to rank them in order of who she wants to see come back. I'm going to give Malou an option, I'm going to only use like one word. Yeah, well, it's like an acronym in a word where you get to decide which list you want just based off of those words. So are you ready to choose? So... yeah. It'll make sense once I say the categories, but the first category is UK, and the second category is brothers.
Brothers.
Okay, so just a little, I know there have been 3 sets of brothers, so 6 brothers total who have come in, but I'm only going to choose 4 of them because there are some similarities between these 2 sets, and the brothers are Sean Brett Schneider, Chad Brett Schneider, Sean Harvey, and Warwick Harvey. And, 2 of the brothers are named Sean. Unfortunately, one of the brothers have tapped from a challenge or 2. But, just whoever you want to see come back just in general between Sean, Chad, and Warwick. Those need to be ranked.
Gosh. Okay. I'm going to choose Tara's partner, Sean, correct? I want to see him back because I really feel like he deserves to come back. He passed the heck out after working so hard. And then his brother comes back and makes it all the way through. I don't know. I would like to see him back. A blast from the past. What about you? If you had to choose one, who would it be?
Oh, God. I would also choose Sean, but I would choose Sean from season 18, who was in the mine. I don't know if this word could be allowed on YouTube, but red body juice sacrifice, because I want to see him and like, I want to see all four of them come back. But Sean, I think he would do really well. He could be potentially another one of the legends in the making, like Stephen Kelly and Frank and Teal and Alexa and all them. But yeah, I would say Sean, and then I want to see Warwick come back because I put him on a list of like, or it's a weird concept. It's like an Excel, but you have people from different continents that are like, or different countries that are like grouped together, and it's like, see which country does the best kind of thing. And it could be like an LOS theme, but yeah, so I would Sean, Brett Schneider, Warwick, and then I'm not going to say the last two just to leave people in suspense, but yeah.
I don't think anybody deserves it more than my pick. What's his last name?
Harvey.
So it's Sean Harvey, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't think that anybody deserves to come back more than Sean Harvey. The way that he reacted to the situation with Tara, which is not even a situation to him. That alone, baby, your hair matches my dress. This is just coincidence. I loved him. I love redheads. And don't you think he handled it 100%? Yeah, I know, baby.
Oh, yeah. I thought he handled it well. And also there was kind of a moment during the episode, like when he meets Tara for the first time, he kind of gives an up-down look. That was at Tara's bow. I believe Tara clarified that Sean was looking at their bow in that moment and was kind of giving that facial up and down look. He did not do that when he saw Tara for the first time. So I know for like the trailer, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But Sean was like, cool, let's do this.
Yeah. And so I think that goes back to super fans versus regular viewers. I feel like that little drama of the look up and down, I think that the show needs that for drama, but I think the super fans know that, hey, they were going to put that in there whether he did it or didn't do it. And then we had someone come back and clarify that he didn't do it. And I never thought he did that because his spirit was so pure. So bring back Sean. Does he want to come back? I don't know. Let's reach out to him and see if we can contact him and find out if he wants to come back.
Okay, I support you in that because the survivalists have no idea who I am except for maybe 3 or 4. So they'll be like, who is this? What
we are going to find out.
Oh gosh. And so yeah. I also wanted to mention...
I love that game. I love that. Is there another one or was that just the one? Is there another round or is just that one?
I mean, we could go with the UK list if you would like. And
Let's do the UK list just for giggles.
So the UK list is the list of survivalists from the UK who have attempted challenges. And those are Jamie from Scotland, Sam from the UK. I don't remember exactly where he said he's from. We have Stephen Kelly from Liverpool, and we have his wife, Jennifer Kelly, who, as some may know, she went on a challenge. She was one of Stephen Lee Hall Jr.'s mentee, but she ended up having to leave. And some behind the scenes is that her mother was unfortunately ill. And so kind of the mental strain from knowing that was the reason why she left the challenge.
I completely understand that. But what's the rank? I'm supposed to rank or just choose one to come back?
Or kind of rank who you most want to see come back in 1, 2, 3, 4, or you could just list of the 4 who you want to see come back between Jamie, Sam, Stephen Kelly, and Jennifer.
Okay, my answer off the top of my head, 100% is Sam Mauser. However, then you threw in that little tidbit about Jennifer's mother, and with my dad's situation, my heart goes out to her. So I'm switching it up because at my heartstrings, family always comes first. So I'm going to switch it to Jennifer because I can't even, I almost said I can't even imagine what it was like for her. I 100% know what it was like. So, Jennifer. And for you, Gabe?
I would agree. And I would put Jamie at a very close second because I want to see him grow as a potential antagonist. Or maybe put him on an Excel and see how that goes for him. But if he does come back for another Last One Standing, I would love to see his villain arc if Jeff and Patrick don't come back for the next Last One Standing. I think that'd be interesting to watch, but Jennifer definitely first.
Yeah, you changed my mind. You weren't even trying, I don't think. Okay, so I have a game for you.
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Are y'all ready for this? Sorry. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, so if Tricky comes back to Last One Standing, will he be more tricky or less tricky?
I think he's going to go full-blown tricky.
Okay, if Jamie comes back, is he going to be more villainish or less villainish?
I think he's going to try to be more villainous. Whether or not that'll work out in his favor is yet to be determined.
Okay. If Jeff ever comes back, team player or not team player?
I think he, on the surface, would be a team player, but behind the scenes, he's gonna try to survivor his way through the competition. Whether or not that'll work is yet to be seen because, I mean, they changed the stealing rules based on his actions in season 1, but then Danny stole from him, and he was very upset about that, and he didn't end up stealing anything. So it would be interesting to see his gameplay.
I'm with there's part B. There's part B.
Oh, there's a part B. Oh gosh. Okay.
Would Jeff be more villainy if he was with Patrick? And who will win that race to be the most villainy? I'm making up stuff for here, y'all. Patrick or Jeff? Who would win the title of being the most cringest?
Oh, the most cringest. Well, since we saw Patrick kind of succeeding in his villainy and getting a full circle story where he didn't have the respect in the beginning, but then kind of got it from his fellow survivalists in the end, I think that Jeff would be more villainous, but Patrick may end up getting all the attention and be more successful in his plot. And Jeff would say, this is my plan the whole time. Yeah.
The cringe factor.
Oh yeah, who doesn't love a little bit of cringe in their...
We need the cringe factor. We need the ick. We need the ick in Last One Standing. Well, very fun. Thank y'all so much for listening to this week's episode of Naked and Afraid. Oh, heck no. I don't know when we're going to put in all those games. I'm telling you this now. I don't know when we're going to put in all those games, but I like the games. I like the games that we're doing. Please like, follow, subscribe, and make sure that you give us your opinion on our answers because we're not always right. That happens all the time. Gabe, what do you got to say?
Thank you all so much for listening. And I wanted to point out just real quick that if Joe manages to stay by himself for 14 more days on this challenge, he will dethrone Tara and the most days survived alone. And so I thought that was some interesting details. And there's one other, but I can't remember
interesting.
Who.
Wow.
So he may unintentionally get a record during his time out there. I don't know if he planned this or what, but another reason to watch. Sorry, Tara, I didn't mean to have you catch any strays during this, but...
I'm telling you, this is going to be stressful for Tara. She probably already knows. But yeah, to make a record, but at the same time, I want him to have a family. He needs a Boma family. So I don't want him to be alone anymore.
Yeah, he's only had 9 days in total with trimates, and one of them he didn't really get along with for a few days, and so we're kind of rooting for Joe. It's the bring back the Joe show.
Bring back the Joe show because it was not all about him this time. All righty, Gabe, give us your famous advice.
Don't send hate to any of the survivalists. Support your favorites.
Bye.
I
thought that was good. What'd you think?
I like that. I thought that was good.
I love this setup. I love this natural light.